Hey, y'all, welcome in. Hope y'all enjoyed the end of that game. Man, what a fourth quarter. This whole second half. The game itself was just awesome, but second half and fourth quarter were really special to watch. Guys, glad y'all could join us. Hopefully, we'll get some more people here flowing in as people are have tuned off the game and joining the stream. If even if not, if you're not getting this live, obviously we'll post this on the YouTube channel and on our podcast feeds as well. Um, but man, just that was the end of college football season, just how it should happen right there, right? The perfect kind of send off in the game there with Mendoza, you know, taking him down the field there in the fourth quarter a couple different times. Obviously, the one touchdown on the fourth down where he runs it in, and then goes down there and adds another field goal and eats up a bunch of the clock. And I mean, it was just a special game to watch there in the fourth quarter. Um, Guys, if you are not subscribed to our channel, if you found this feed on like social media, somebody shared it, go ahead and subscribe to our channel, please. We're trying to grow our audience as much as we can, and so we can react to stuff like this and kind of sharing our love for college football and breaking it down. So, I mean, just an overall really special game. I thought this thing at halftime, I tweeted it out and I kind of wrote down in my notes and grab my notes real quick. It's great live podcast in here. Um, but I wrote down in my notes on that first drive, or I'm sorry, at the end of the first half, like uh, Miami, just like we talked about in the preview, they needed this game to go a certain way. They needed to get Indiana out of their comfort zone offensively, where they couldn't just run the football, where they couldn't just, you know, kind of control the clock and control the tempo of the game. They needed to get Indiana chasing. And the first half was the opposite of that, right? They're down 10-0, and it it wasn't for a lack of execution by the defense for sure. I thought the front 6, 7 of this defense for Miami played an incredible first half, and they really stopped the run for Indiana for the most part. I thought Indiana was just very committed to running the football though, and they were not. They were so stubborn about it. They were not going to give up on it, and I kind of think that's been Indiana's mo all year. Is they might not be gashing you for 5 or 6 yards of rush, but they are going to be committed to it if they're anything. And I kind of think the game turned there in the third quarter. Indiana only had 11 yards of offense in the third quarter, and I think that was partially contributed to them sort of chasing a little bit. I mean, the first drive of the third quarter, they come out and Mendoza gets sacked twice. They get lucky on the 3rd and 17 call, where Black, they just hand it off and he gets face masked. Um, and they got to move the sticks on that, but then they come right back on the next, on the same possession, the next 3 plays there, the next sequence, and, Bain runs, uh, Mendoza down for the sack when they only rushed 3, and it really looked like they kinda started to get a little pass happy. I thought they got a little impatient there, Indiana did, and then the next drive, they did the same thing. They came out, they went 3 and out, they got sacked again, and to me, it was like, oh, they're kind of unlocking Miami's pass rush for them by giving them the opportunity to pass rush. And so I thought that part of the game, Indiana, that was the most out of character I think they were the whole game. And then obviously the fourth quarter was what it was. Um, but just going back, I thought the game needed to go a certain way for Miami to win. You looked in the first half. Um, I think I wrote down with 6:17 left to go in the first half, Miami was averaging 1.4 yards a carry. Indiana was averaging 2.9. And that was one of the big things in my preview that I talked about was I thought both of these teams would struggle to run the ball early. I thought they would both that's the way these teams are built in the front 7. They're going to stop the run. And I thought they both were very similar in their schemes. They both run a ton of zone, and I think that played into each defense's hands because they knew what to do up front, what types of looks with I saw a lot of top fronts in this game, meaning when you play a top front, you're going to try to eliminate double teams, right? Make it where those interior offensive linemen, where they can't climb and get double teams on down linemen and climb to the second level, to the linebacker level. And that they did there was a lot of tight fronts. There were a lot of games being played with the D line. Saw a lot of tackling in stunts, which really mess with zone because if you're working a combo, a double team running inside zone to guard, so let's say front side tackle, front side guard, and you're going, let's say you're working to a four eye or a four technique defensive end, and all of a sudden, uh, he goes out and you have an outside linebacker loop underneath and go in B gap, like, that messes your count up and it messes your combo up. Saw a bunch of that stuff in this game, um, where, uh, both teams really struggled to just get a consistent run game. Now, I will say Indiana, especially in the second half, they just kept nickel and diming away with Black and with Hemby, but Black especially. And I really think that was key to those last couple drives going down and getting those 10 points, were their ability to just run it on first down and get 4 or 5 and set themselves up for, you know, the second and third down. And that one drive, obviously, the 2 big fourth downs that they had, where they were willing to go for it on fourth to try to get that lead back to double digits there. Um, I thought that early on, you looked at Miami's, um, you know, I thought their offense was just so, um, lacking answers, right? I thought they weren't that committed to running the ball. They went 3 and out a couple times, throwing it all 3 times to Beck, and I thought they didn't have any consistency. They had no identity. Indiana, I feel like they were kinda tipped off on some formations and some situations early. They were dropping 8. They would show pressure and drop 8. I thought Beck was confused by that. Um, and they had the one big cross completion there in the second quarter, after Indiana went up 10-0. Uh, they had the big cross completion to CJ Daniels. That was pretty much it for the passing game for the first half. Miami, I mean, Beck, I think he threw for 50 something yards in the first half. So they really struggled to have any offensive identity. Obviously, they found some stuff in the second half, and I thought, Beck made some plays. I still thought he missed a lot. I still thought Indiana, at the end of the day, they confused him a ton. And the best Miami looked, honestly, was when they went tempo and when they had Indiana on the run a little bit, and that's when they got the ball to Malachi Tony. And man, I thought he went just completely, uh, ghosted for entire periods and stretches of this game. In the fourth quarter, bam, he shows up. They hit him on the little, the occupy route on deep choice there on first down for about 40, and then they come back and they hand him off, or they toss him stretch out to the right with the back crossing back underneath it, show a little misdirection, and he takes it to the house. I mean, that guy's special, man. Like every time he touches the ball, he's electric. You see why they call him Baby Jesus. Uh, but I thought Miami found some stuff there in the second half with that, and obviously, they made some plays to get themselves back in the game when they needed to. Obviously, the block punt for a touchdown I mean, that's the difference in the game when you look at I mean, that was 7 points, a non-offensive touchdown, and really look at it like Miami's in a shield punt. Shield punt should just never get blocked because you have answers for anything anybody could bring pressure in the A or B gap or try to bring pressure off the edge, and honestly, it looked like Indiana played in their base defense right there, and they really didn't even have a block on. Uh, Miami's kinda showed a little almost like a rugby punt roll to the right, and 6 for Indiana just kinda ran right into it. Personal protector was 87 on the right, and, like, he kinda just olayed him and pushed him right in and let him go right around the edge, and, um, that's just a breakdown execution for Miami and special teams that should never happen. Um, because like I said, Indiana really wasn't even trying to block that thing, and this just a crucial, crucial moment in that game where if that doesn't happen, obviously you get a whole fourth quarter where things can play out differently. Um, but that's the difference in the game ultimately is the block punt for the touchdown. So um, I thought third downs was an interesting stat for this game. It's one of the things in my preview that I talked about a good bit. And guys, I'm gonna probably break a little bit of podcast etiquette here, but I'm gonna pull up the stats on my phone in front of me. Um, I thought that you look at third down conversions in the first half, Miami 0 for 6, Indiana 4 for 7. We talked about Indiana being the number one third down conversion team in the country. They showed it in the first half, especially. And then you saw in the second half, Indiana had some trouble though. Um, they went out there and at one point they were 0 for 6. Um, right after the Mendoza or on the drive that Mendoza's run the touchdown on fourth down, they were 0 for 6 in the second half on third down. So I mean, obviously, that right there, it kind of goes to show you that you know Miami kind of flipped that in the second half, and Miami was actually moving the ball and converting third downs, but looking at some stats there, they ended up Indiana 6 for 15 on third down, and Miami 3 for 11. Both teams were perfect on fourth down. Miami was 1 of 1, Indiana was 2 for 2. And I think one of the key stats that we talked about in our preview um, for this game was Indiana's run pass splits. I said coming into this game, they averaged 41 rushes a game to 25 passes a game. And I thought that if Indiana could unlock that same ratio or something similar to it, they'd win this game. Indiana ends this game 45 rushing attempts, 27 passing attempts. So right there on par with their season long ratio. Um, and now they didn't just run it down Miami's throats, 2.9 yards an attempt. Uh, but they were committed to running the football. And I thought that they played the perfect game to stay in their identity where they didn't have to chase. They could take 2.9 yards of rush and be okay with it. And I thought that was key, obviously, to staying in their identity, staying in their style of play, and winning the game. Miami actually rushed for 5.2 yards a carry, but they only rushed it 21 times. Beck throws it 32 times. Um, I just think, that kind of goes to show you the type of game that both these teams ended up playing and what Indiana kind of speaks to their execution. They executed their game plan. Was it perfect? By no means it wasn't. But if you would have told them going in they could stick to that run pass ratio, they would lead the whole game, that they would have taken it. And that's exactly what they did. And they're disciplined enough to do it. Their coaching staff is experienced enough and they know that this is how their team wins and they don't panic. And, I thought like I said, I thought for other than just that stretch in the third quarter where it seemed like Indiana was off kilter a little bit character-wise with their offensive attack, like, they completely stuck to the plan, and they won the game because of that. Um, so I thought that was obviously a key stat, coming into this thing, and it played out just like that, right? Um, looking back, I thought that, you know, Mark Fletcher had a great game. I mean, he had the long touchdown run there on the first drive of the second half. And I really think 17 carries for him is not enough. I mean, that guy he's a bell cow, he's a workhorse, and he gets better the more carries he gets. And, once again, Miami, I know they were down double digits there a couple times in the second half trying to chase and get back in it. And that's why it was so important going in. I thought that they played this game from a if they weren't ahead, they needed to be tied. If they weren't tied, they needed to be behind by like 3 or 5. Being down double digits for that long, though, it shortened the game. and they really struggled to kind of flip that or give the run game the opportunity that needed to get going and be successful. Um, Guys, I thought Miami did a great job against Indiana's slot fades. And not slot fades, their fade game in general, right? Um, you looked at Indiana's ability coming into this game to throw back shoulders and to beat people with fade balls. Like Miami shut that down for 3 quarters, and then Charlie Becker shows up in the 4th quarter. He has the one huge one there on the 4th down, 4th and 5, uh, and then he has the other one there on the last Indiana drive where they got the field goal. He comes in and he gets it. Um, I think it was a 3rd and maybe 3rd and 8, but they caught the back shoulder. So ultimately, that thing that they also did very well and executed all year, the back shoulder stuff, that came into to play and then clinching this game because they got 2 of them on 2 consecutive drives. Surratt never got one. They kept trying to work one to him, but they never could hit him on one. And but Charlie Becker came up with 2 big ones there, obviously in the 4th quarter when they needed them, and helped them win the game. Guys, I think you look at this. I mean, what the 4th quarter of this game turned into. Miami gave that they kind of built it up to where they gave Indiana their best shot in the 4th quarter, and Indiana just kept answering. Um, I think they in the broadcast they talked about, hey, Miami's been in these kinds of games, and Indiana had been a couple times this year, but not recently. And Indiana just kept answering the call. They kept kind of getting back, trading punches and kind of holding serve and scoring when they needed to and running the clock when they needed to and getting first downs when they needed to. And I think that ultimately that it won them the game because Miami ran out of time, obviously, coming down there at the end. Um, they're trying to score and win the game with less than a minute left, and Beck throws the pick. And I think Indiana just executed their plan just good enough to where obviously Miami just ran out of time to where they couldn't get that late score that they needed. And I thought Indiana's defense there they kind of confused Beck one last time. I thought they confused him a good bit all night. He thought he had some type of man look or quarters look, and obviously it was a cover 2 kind of trap corner deal where the corner played it underneath and he just picked off the underthrown fade, and that was it. So, I thought I mean, there was a ton of plays made in this game. Thought Malachi Tony was really special. Um, I thought Miami's defensive front all along, I mean, thought 99 had a great game. 1, 12, um, obviously, 3 and 4, Mesidor and Bain, they had amazing games. But just like we talked about, the preview of the semifinal games with Indiana, and the preview of this game, they're so complete and they can beat you so many ways that it really, with Miami taking away a lot of what Indiana has done to just gash people in the run game and taking away explosive plays, taking away fade balls and back shoulders, Indiana still found a way. They still had enough in their game offensively to move the ball, to hold the ball and hold possession, and to score when they needed to score, whether that be a field goal, whether that be touchdowns. And I think a lot's going to be made of this. Watching the post game and stuff now. Signetti's call on that drive where they go up 24-14, the 4th down call is the call of the year, and that's why he makes $11 million a year. The Don Draper meme right there from Mad Men. That's what the money's for, to make that call, and he made it perfect. It's 4th and 5. You're up by 3. If you kick the field goal, you're up by 6. honestly, from a coaching standpoint, I don't know that the game's any different, whether you're up by 6 or you're up by 3. So, I think he kinda knew that rolling the dice was worth it there to try to get 7 because I think what it really did was put the pressure on Miami to say, "Hey, you gotta play this game different now. You gotta come down the field. You gotta chuck it all over the place. You gotta go fast." And that's the only way you have a chance now because there was, like, what, 8 minutes left? And that's ultimately what won them the game. Miami came right back down the field and answered and made it 24-21, and then Indiana plodded along, took enough clock, got it down under 2 minutes, kicked the field goal, and got up by 6. Where at that point, being up by 6 with a minute or so left, it's different than being up by 6 with 8 minutes left. Um, the Mendoza play on the quarterback draw, um, they go 2 by 2, 2 receivers to each side. It was like they had hitches called to the slot on each side. Obviously, Miami played coverage, and I mean Mendoza just makes an all-world play, runs over the safety, falls in backwards into the end zone. Um, that one will be shown on every highlight. From now on, it's and not just in Indiana football, but college football in general. Just complete, um, like hero moment. Like I mean, he won the Heisman over a month ago, but that was his Heisman moment. That's his career moment right there, was scoring that touchdown and just, punching it in there. Um, kind of final thoughts on the game. I know that it's fresh in my mind, it just has happened. Thought Miami had plenty of chances and you know, I think in my preview I talked about Miami had the recipe to do this. They could run the ball, they could stop the run, and they could rush the passer. And I thought if they could play a game where being able to run the ball and commit to it was doable without getting down by 10 or 14 or 20 points, then they had a real shot. And that really didn't happen until the second half. They didn't start playing that game until the second half. Um, but I don't think they gave themselves enough of a chance early because they were so inefficient on offense in the first half that they didn't get enough first downs. They couldn't possess the ball. Um, and they had no real scoring opportunities in the first half. And I thought that really hurt their overall game because by the time the game started in the second half, it's shortened, and you only have so many possessions to try to cut into that lead and get back in it. And then obviously the special teams touchdown is just it's too much to overcome in a game like that where you're trying to play that style. Um, Indiana, are they the team of the century or whatever, going 16-0 and going on this run? Like, I don't know if that I can answer that tonight. Um, they certainly, um, they have the track record, the results to say, this is a very special football team. Indiana football winning the national championship, it's like something out of NCAA, like EA like sports video game. Like it, it's like if you start a dynasty with them and you win in year two, like that's the only way this would ever happen. But they, I mean, just the job Signetti's done. We're not going to get into all that tonight, but the job he's done. If you're listening to this, I mean, and it all played out tonight. The execution of what this team does. They didn't do anything overworldly. They didn't just completely out scheme their opponent, coaching wise. They didn't come out there and do anything we hadn't seen them do all year. They executed. They ran inside and outside zone. They allowed their quarterback to RPO and take advantage of a lot of free access stuff, especially in the first half. Their defense stops the run, and they make things hard for you throwing it. because they play coverage very well. They disguise stuff very well. Their corners are good. I mean, Pons is great. Number 5, he might be, going back and watching the film, he might be the MVP of Indiana's defense in this game. Just he made so many plays in the run game and the pass game, um, that I mean, he just kept showing up. But I mean, there's a complete team, and they execute so well. They could beat you so many ways. And we said it. I think I said it before the Oregon game, before the semifinal. Indiana can beat you 13-10. They can beat you 41-38. They can beat you 56-22. They can beat you 27-21. They can win any kind of game that they get in. And I thought that that gave them a big, big upper hand against all the teams they played down the stretch, including tonight, that they can win any type of football game that they found themselves in because they're so well built across the board. And that's ultimately what happened tonight. They were able to run the ball decently. They were able to play from ahead. They got a special teams touchdown, and the quarterback made some real plays down the stretch. They clinched it for them, and you know that was kind of their recipe tonight. So, guys, I know that's that's kind of the national championship game summed up. Um, Obviously, we'll have more reaction this week. Um, definitely do a breakdown of this game, of the film, and get it out there to y'all. And kind of recap the season and recap not just what we saw in these playoffs, but what we saw in 2025 in college football in general. Um, Once again, guys, I want to thank y'all for joining our show. Don't forget, subscribe, like, follow us on Twitter and TikTok at Joey Browning CFB. Um, Subscribe to us wherever you get your podcast, um, Apple, Spotify, wherever it may be. And we want to thank y'all for joining us here at the end of the season. And looking forward to breaking these games or breaking down the national championship game on film later this week. And look for our next shows we'll be putting out. We'll make sure we put it all over the place on Twitter and as well, if you're subscribed here, you'll get notification when we put out anything new. So, guys, y'all have a great night. Thank you for joining us.